cars and rope chains. A time and a place where everybody had a hustle. Some people had brains, some people had muscle, some people had both, a dangerous combination. A couple steps ahead of any sticky situation. Know when to make the move and know when to stay and be patient. And just because you're flesh and blood doesn't make you related. She used to tell me a story about the amazing Glaze. Him and your pops was like brothers, but that nigga was crazy. Me in early late 80s, Brooklyn the murder capital, where it wasn't frowned on if you had to bust a cat or two. Just keep it rational, never radical. Watch your attitude, and if you made it out, and show your gratitude.
Hey, good day, everybody. Hey, thank you for joining me. Just in case you're joining me for the very first time, hey, I'm your host, the real Brian Glaze Gibbs. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, share, support. Shout out to over 26,000 subscribers. I appreciate each and every one of you that took the time to subscribe, to like, to comment, to share. I was once the problem. Now what I seek to do is right my wrong and become part of the solution. Hey, today I'm gonna do something different. Here it is. I just read this article in the New York Post. It came out yesterday. And the title say, infamous gangbanger who murdered NYPD rookie could be released from prison and join 43 others cop killer sprung in just 8 years. So even with this article right now, this is part of, the case that I was involved in when I was a young knucklehead snide-nosed kid. When Edward Byrne got murdered, I was the number one suspect. 103rd, 113, and 75th. They considered me to be the person that was crazy enough, to execute a rookie police officer as he sat in the car. So here we go. One of New York City's most notorious cop killer, the gangbanger who murdered police officer Edward Byrne as he sat in his patrol car in Queens in 1988, could become the 40th convicted cop killer sprung from prison in the last 8 years when he faced the parole board later this month. The Post had learned the ruthless assassination of the rookie cop by David McClary on the order of a drug kingpin stunned a city and those of the crack epidemic in the 1980s and became a national symbol of the era lawlessness. Byrne was just 22 and on the force for just a month when he was ambushed by McClary and 3 accomplices. On February 26, 1988, he was guarding the South Jamaica home of a witness who was planning to testify against drug lord Howard Pappy Mason. Okay, for clarification, y'all, right now that is not the case. Okay, that cop was random. It didn't matter who was sitting there. Initially, it was a black female that was sitting there a few days before that, and they refused to execute that black female. So once again, that didn't have nothing to do with the guy was going to testify against Pappy. They was going to go against, June was going to testify against Mustafa. Mustafa and Pappy didn't have nothing to do with each other. So that was wrong information. McClary snuck up on Burns as he sat alone in a marked patrol car and shot him 5 times in the head. Burns' killing struck such a chord that then President Ronald Reagan called his family to offer condolences. President George H.W. Bush later brought the officer badge with him to the Oval Office, where he kept it in his desk. Mason, 65, who ordered a cop murdered from jail, was sentenced to life in prison for drug racketeering charge that included Burns' murder. He is currently being held at Devon, a federal prison in Massachusetts. Records show the 3 accomplices was all convicted of murder. The getaway driver Scott Carr was paroled in 2023. 2 other men, Todd Scott and Philip Copeland, remain behind bars for now. McClary, now 59 years old, at the Wendy Correctional Facility near Buffalo, have served 36 years of a maximum life sentence. He came up for parole on an unknown date later this month. His 8th hearing so far. So folks, look at that. He'd been in jail 36 years, meaning that he went away. He was 23 years old. And for what? Was it worth it? The Burns family speaking out for the first time in decades is outraged. He's even being allowed to sniff freedom. This was someone who was clearly the most culpable and dangerous out of the group. But to this day, he still denied any knowledge of what was going to happen that night, even though it's very clear that they all sat around a table and planned this and drew straws on who was going to execute my brother. Kenneth Byrne told the Post. This was an absolutely shocking crime. Executing a uniformed police officer in a marked car, protecting a witness who was being tortured by this drug gang, say Burns, 56, and a lawyer, adding that the witness' home was firebombed. He should not be released. I don't care what alleged accomplishment he has in prison, say Burns, who is preparing a victim impact statement he will send to the parole board. So even with that being said, folks, you got to sit back and you got to think, you got to ask yourself, like, how long ago? And you know what? These families not letting it go. They do not want these guys to get out. As they say, Scott Carr, okay, he was a getaway driver. And he repent. He did his time. He came home in 2023. But once again, they do not want these other individuals out. They want them behind bars. They want them to die in prison, regardless. So even with that being said, the message to these young kids out there, man, listen, trouble is easy to get into and hard to get out. Look at this, man. These guys like what, in their 20s, 20 to 23 years old when this happened. And what they did was they was falling behind the wrong person, the wrong leadership. Imagine if they was falling behind somebody telling them to go to school, get a job, or go to the military. These guys would have been retired. They would have been retired, raised their family, getting a pension, and guess what? Being a productive citizen in the society. But now they fighting to get out after 36 years of incarceration. And was it worth it? I guarantee you, each and every one of those individuals now would say that it wasn't worth it. That at the end of the day, they picked up that break through that prison wall for absolutely nothing. Yo, take it from somebody that know. Been there, done that. The crazy part about it, I was picked up for the Edward Byrne murder. And Dave was with me. Marshall was with me. They let those guys go. Because once again, they thought, guess what? I was that guilty party. And let me let you in a secret. I am not the smartest person in the whole wide world. But even back then, I wasn't playing with a full deck, but I was not the dumbest individual in the whole wide world. Otherwise, I'd have been right there with them and the New York State Correctional Facility for 36 years now. And you know what? To me, I'm glad all that craziness is behind me. I'm glad that I got the necessary help that I need. And that's why my message is crime doesn't pay. There's no shortcut in life. Only thing come fast is trouble, easy to get in, hard to get out. Hey, hit the like button, subscribe, share, support. I am the real Glaze Gibbs. If I can change, anybody could change. Could change come from within. One love.
Also was murder, executioner style. And as I'm listening to that, I'm like, whoa. And when they say where it happened at 107 in Inwood, I'm like, oh, man.
Not bad. That was given to me by a police officer in New York called Matt Byrne, whose son was gunned down by these drug dealers up there in New York City.
Well, police regarding our June last month, assassins shot to death police officer Edward Byrne.
By virtue of his position with that organization and his reputation, it was the consensus of opinion at first, after the Byrne murder, that Brian Glaze Gibbs, and only Brian Glaze Gibbs, was capable of pulling something off like this.